Hello! Bit of a different product for a lost model finder, this one, as it's not really its primary function. But I got pinged this by a Facebook friend, Emiliano, so thanks for that, about a possible cheap solution of something that does a very simple task of finding a model. And as far as cheap goes, it's under $9. So Gearbest sent me along one to try out, and here it is here in this little bag. And this is basically what it is. When I say it's lost model finder is not the primary function, is because this acts as like a battery protector. It's got a little LCD here that shows your battery voltage. It's a low voltage beeper, and it lights up, so it's many things. But the crucial thing, and where it's nice and simple, is after 6 minutes it will just start beeping. And I'll quickly show you what else you get in the bag. You get one of these little 3M sticky things that the silicone pads go on there, which will stop the battery moving. You get a battery strap to help secure it around your quad, and you get some instructions. It's got a little bit in here about if you use 3S. It's on a balance connector, so, and it's built around 4S, but if you need to use 3S, you can swap one of the things over and use that way. Basically, battery would go on kind of like this, that would go under quad, like so, and then when you plug in your balance plug, it lights up some LEDs nice and brightly, and what you've got there is your battery voltage. If you look very closely here, you've got two of those types of beepers you find, and when it goes off it's pretty loud, and it's quite distinct sort of noise. It's much different than just a regular beeper. Let me hold this for 6 minutes and I'll show you what happens. Loud, isn't it? Yeah, so it's a pretty distinct noise, a little bit different from the norm, and it's pretty damn loud, I have to say. Hopefully this sort of sound should travel. Now I've just chucked it on this quad that I'm going to test it with, and you'll notice it's got this yellow strap here, and that's because certainly on this quad, this strap was a little bit too small. It's going to depend how much you've got to go around your stack to thread back into. So as far as a lost model finder goes, it's cheap, and that means it's a very simple situation. So immediately you're going to say, oh yeah, but what happens if the battery comes off? So the idea here is, you know, the battery could be plugged in. If it comes off, what we're hoping is that it stays with this, which is plugged in with the balance port, and thus that starts bleeping away there. I mean, there's certainly a risk that they both come off together. A cheap solution is also a very simple solution, so it's not necessarily completely foolproof. But I'd like to see how it does. So as far as the noise goes, I'm going to take this out and fly it and dunk it down and see if I can listen and find it. And I'm going to see if I can turn off the fail-safe beeper so I can turn my radio off. But there's a couple of other setup things in this in terms of the low voltage alarm and the colours you can set up. So join me down on the floor and we'll have a little close-up session just to see how you change those around. Okay, so a few words about how you actually set this, well, the few little options of this. So let's just plug it in to start with. So as mentioned, you've got the voltage there, and I'm using lights here, so it's a little bit harder to see. But you can see I've got 15 volts there because it's in storage charge. And what you've got, this little button right in there, which is not something you can really press with your fingers. And what you have to do is then hold it in for 3 seconds. And then what we get is a flashing 3.3, and with this, what you can do is then cycle through what you want to use as your voltage alarm. So 3.3 up to 3.7. If you hold that down for another 3 seconds, it says 1, and this is the colour, well, the number of the colour of the lights, and you can cycle through from red to blue to green to purple to yellow to blue. Didn't we have blue already? What's it made? It's white, whitey purple, whitey blue, and red. I am going to go for sort of purple colour. Here's the quad, so I'm going to try and match that up. So yeah, I'm going to go for that purple, and then I just hold it down for another 3 seconds, and it comes out the menu back to normal again. So yeah, next thing to do, fix it on the quad, let's take it out for a fly. Well, hello there and welcome to the field where it's very hot and I'm very sweaty. We're here today to test this kind of lost model finder, kind of multi-function thing where it's got the LEDs as nav lights and a little thing to tell you the voltage, and of course it bleeps after 6 minutes, which is the thing I really wanted to test today. So bizarrely, for the first time ever since I've been coming here in 6 years, there is a van over in the corner of that field there where I'd normally ditch a quad down and then go and get it. In fact, I've ditched so many quads there I think I'm creating a little divot. But so what I'm going to do instead is go through the gap in the trees there, into the field, let it go down, because I can go quite far and I will lose video and everything, and thus have to rely on the beep. What I've got the quad set up to do as well is not beep on failsafe, so I'm going to turn the radio off, put my goggles away, just rely on the beep happening, and see if I can go find it. But before I did that, I thought what I'd do is also just do a quick line of sight flight just to see how well these little lights show up, especially in the sun. And these are set to sort of the purpley magenta colour to go with the quad, so let's see how those look. Okay, here's a little quad, so let's plug in the lights, well, the light thing, whatever, first. And looks like that. We've got our voltage there, which is quite hard to see here, 16.6, 16.7 it's saying. Now that's quite hard to read in light, you have to shelter that bit. There's the lights there. These, I don't think the purple's the most strongest one. It's kind of a bit of a mix of the blue and the red there, but let's see how it looks in the GoPro. Let's see how it looks to my eyes as well, obviously. Alright, just going to do a little hover really, just to check this is alright. Oh yeah, that shows up quite nicely. Certainly the back ones look pretty bright. Hang on, something biting my arm. Can't wait. The underneath one's quite nice too. Yeah, I can work with that. So yeah, I think they show up quite nicely. Let's land it and we'll sort out an FPV flight and then go ditch it. So whilst I was just getting ready to fly, what I noticed is that truck that I saw drive through earlier, driving away, and I thought, oh, that's handy. I'll be able to ditch it in my normal spot like I wanted to originally, so I'll go and do that. And this also coincided with me noticing a little figure walking in the field where I was gonna ditch it, so I didn't want to use that field. Obvious reason there, because I didn't want to bring it near a person, but aside from the safety point of view, I've always found the people here to be so helpful and friendly. I was kind of worried about him bringing it on back to me before I had a chance to actually go and find it again. So knowing I'd have 6 minutes from power on, rather than ditch it and then sort of meander over there slowly, I obviously wanted to have it so the sound would come on fairly quickly. So I had a bit of a fly round for my idea was to go for about 4 minutes really. It turned out to be a little bit longer. So I figure it's heading on around about the 4 minute mark, which is my normal battery, although this one's lasting a fair amount of time. So I decide to go ahead and go through the small gap. Bear in mind if I lost video here, wouldn't mind. And what do I see? There's another truck there. That's no good. So I can't use that area. I'm going to have to look for another one. So I can't use this bit. I don't want to use the other bit because there's a person in that field. Although, to be fair, they've probably moved on by now. So I decide what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down behind myself along that tree line and see if I can find some long grass or something. I'm quite confident that the field is really dry now. There's been sort of a week's worth of sun. So it's really, really dried out. It used to be marsh. So here looks like a good spot to drop it down. So I'm just going to go along here and find some nice old long grass, and I'm just going to drop the throttle and let it go down, turn everything off, and then see what happens. Down we go. Okay, so we put it down eventually. First I thought that area was clear because I saw the truck driving along there. Then I saw there was something in that field, so I went back there to find there was another truck there. So eventually we ditched it there. Now I was in the air for just over 4 minutes. Took about a minute to back away. So I would have kind of expected to get beeping now. So let's take a walk that direction and see what we can hear, or listen to what we can hear. I'm just over here. I was just the other side of this thing, which looks much further away in the camera than it is. And I've just walked over to follow along here, and I've just started hearing it. I don't know if you can pick that up on here, but let's walk towards and see if it gets stronger. There's quite a lot of bird noise and stuff, but it's like I said, it's a fairly different sort of beep. It's more of a sort of a screechy sound than a pure beep beep, which makes it a little bit easy to hear amongst all the wildlife. It's actually one of the few bits that's actually got some like proper grass stuff left that you can ditch it in. The reason I don't actually fly around this apart from here that often is because there's a really strange RF area around here where you can just lose signal completely. Beeping's really quite distinct now. Yeah, that very directional sound makes it pretty easy to pick up. Here it is just down here, look. Ugh. Screeching. Alright, well there's another quad rescue done. Of course you'd have to wait 6 minutes, but if you're at the end of a battery, not too long. Nice and loud, a very distinctive noise, made it pretty easy to find. Even in sort of long grass and stuff where the noise can sometimes travel a bit funny. So yeah, pretty good I think. Well, whilst this did a pretty good job, unfortunately the sound wasn't picked up very well on the audio. I'm using this little microphone I've got here for my GoPro 4, which is really good for getting rid of wind noise. And incidentally there's a little review on this on my other channel, which you can see here. But yeah, it didn't seem to pick up the more subtle beeping noises, because in the past where I haven't used the mic, I remember people saying on the video that they could hear the beeping before I could hear it in my ears, so the reverse happened. But yeah, it was pretty good, and that screechy noise made it quite distinctive. Now, as a pure model finder, the only reservation I had about this is threading it into the main strap itself, because in a crash what happens is, of course, the battery weighs a lot, so if it suddenly stops, that inertia will carry forward, and often you get broken straps where it's that hard. So where this would be tethered around here, my worry is that there's a good possibility this would snag and the battery would carry on and it would still disconnect from the balance plug, which of course needs to stay connected into to keep power. So I think if you were going to use this as a lost model finder, what you'd want to do is use the strap they gave you, secure it with that strap directly to the battery, so that's really strong, and then secure the whole gubbins in a longer strap on the quad itself, which would give you this, which I thought was going to be a lot more awkward, but actually it's okay. And I'd be a lot more confident about this acting properly as a lost model finder, because even if the whole battery situation came off, there's a good chance of the battery staying in touch with this, and thus the balance lead staying in and the beep being able to do it. Of course the battery could have travelled a distance, but normally that at least puts you in a pretty good vicinity of where your quad's going to be. So I'd be a lot more confident about using it purely as a lost model finder. Obviously that's a little bit more of a faff to connect on, but we're dealing with something that's under $9, so it's cheaper, which means it's not, you know, as clever as some of the other beepers. It doesn't have its own battery on board, so we can make a couple of adjustments there. But using that method, I'd be reasonably happy with it as a lost model finder and quite confident about it actually working. Well, weight-wise, this whole thing, the bit itself, I weighed at 26 grams, the extra strap is 4 grams, so 30 extra grams all in. Obviously heavier than some of the other options you can get, but cheap and simple, so there you go. I also quite like the nav lights. If you haven't got any and you want to do it for cheap, an easy way of retrofitting a quad, then that's not a bad idea. So anyway, this is the GoFlyRC, a multifunctional battery protection board, to give it its full posh name. And I got this from Gearbest, thanks to them, and of course you can find a link down below where you can check it out on the webpage. Hopefully that was helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now. Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.